Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We are excited to have you here with us for our summer virtual series. Again, my name is Tara Stevenson. I serve as the Vice President of Student Affairs here at Flagler College. We are joined by Mr. John Delaney, our president here at Flagler. I'm going to go over a few little housekeeping items first, and then we're going to dive into the questions. I always like to say dive in. I feel like it's, maybe a summer swimming thing. But I'm excited to kind of hear how things are looking as we're in the thick of August and school is getting ready to start. But as always, we are recording these sessions. We have a Q&A available, so if anybody has any questions, we will try to get to them as much as we can. Last week, impressive 46 questions, I think we were at. So I don't think we're gonna hit that high of a peak tonight, but who knows? We'll see how it goes. But we know that last week's session was really important since we went over what move-in day is gonna look like, all the nuts and bolts to it. We are working with our campus partners to get that recording up onto our Flagler College YouTube channel, but all other recordings have been uploaded onto there. So we appreciate everybody's patience on those. Um, but let's go ahead and get to know you a little bit. It's going to be your fifth year as president. So the fun thing last year was that you were kind of graduating with them in your fourth year. But now you're that fifth year. So what makes Flagler unique?
Oh, you always start with the faculty and the staff. It's people when you get down to it. I mean, there's schools that are conducted in grass huts with dirt floors. It's really about the quality of the instructor, and that's how it's built. So it's the people, but it's a pretty unique place. And I say college presidents use the word unique a lot as they try to find a niche for their particular institution. But this campus is just stunningly pretty. And, it's selected by Architectural Digest as one of the 10 prettiest campuses in the entire world. So that's a great starting place.
Well, and I mean, yes, unique is a common word that you could use, but look at how history is just a part of so many of our buildings. I mean, it's not just Ponce Hall, which is beautiful, but there really is history kind of in all the different crevices. The FEC is my favorite residence halls, and I feel like you get to walk through, the history even there.
Yeah, we call that building is actually FEC A, B, and C,
Mhm.
and the stands for the Florida East Coast Railroad that used to be headquartered there, which was actually started by Henry Flagler. He was among other things a railroad magnate. So that is a gorgeous building, and of course St. Augustine is an historic town. It's the oldest town in America, and gets a lot of tourists just to come and see the old Spanish fort built in the 1500s, and of course the Ponce, the fort, and the Ponce, the kind of the main building on the Flagler campus, are the most visited places in St. Augustine. That lets you know kind of how special it is.
It always makes me think about the fifth grade field trips. And so there's a lot of fifth grade field trips that take place here in St. Augustine. And then that's what makes it to where students want to come to Flagler when they go to college. I love asking, like, how did Flagler come on your radar? Why did you choose Flagler? And it's always because I came to visit my family in the area, or I came on a fifth grade field trip and got to see what it was all about.
Yeah, I asked the same question. I ask, and alums too. I asked that too. How
Mhm.
did you find Flagler? And for so many of them, we vacationed there. We were visiting a relative and drove through St. Augustine, and particularly girls, female students. They say they point at that building. That's where I want to go. So it's obviously a major attraction point. I know we'll get to it, but we've just done a complete renovation of the interior. So really looking forward to the students coming back and seeing that.
Yeah, so along those same lines, I got some new and exciting stats for us. We are now going to be representing 40 states with our incoming class. That's up from two last year. And 56% of our incoming students are from out of state, which still, like, I like to joke that it's because they can surf year round here. That's why we have such a Northeast population.
Yeah, that's true. We typically are somewhere between, 46 and 54% out of state, the rest from Florida, and really from all of Florida, not necessarily just the Northeast
Mm-hmm.
Florida area. And I'm actually from the Midwest. My dad was with General Motors, and he got transferred to Northeast Florida, and they wanted to send me to Michigan or Ohio. He said I can play golf here year round, and you can likewise surf year round here too, which um, people do. So
Yes,
yeah, we're pretty close to the beach. One of the closest colleges to the beach, and it's a very nice beach.
it is. It is. And it's an easy bike ride away. It'd be kind of a hike to walk, but it's not too not too far for sure.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Uh,
walkable if you're trying to get into shape, but most people bike, ride,
Maybe
shuttle,
not in the month of
bus. Yeah,
August.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So, what is your favorite place on campus? You've kind of dropped a couple different hints on some places, but what would you think is your favorite place?
That's actually moved through time, and the Urban Land Institute. I think I've mentioned this to you before. They have a phrase they use that they're about kind of the urban developments. They've got a phrase called a sense of place, and then actually there's whole articles written about what is that, and it's kind of about the emotional connection you can get to a place. There's some churches that are that way for Christians or non-Christians.
Mhm.
The cathedral at Cologne or Notre Dame, something like that. The Grand Canyon kind of has a sense of place. It's a stunning thing when you get it on the right day. And that I really think kind of applies to this campus. I used to say the mezzanine, which is kind of around the rotunda, just up from the dining hall. You go up to the dining hall and then you go up to the mezzanine space. And as you recall, it used to be a very little used space. It's because we
Mm-hmm.
didn't have the right furniture in there, and students like to kind of curl up on a cushy chair or couch and hang their legs over the chair. And it's got a couple gorgeous old fireplaces, original fireplaces in there. So we did it. We really kind of gutted it. Had a decorator come in and say, what is it that students would like in there? And it now gets used an awful lot more. It's sort of
Oh,
a
the
fun
big
space.
round tables that are up there.
Yeah,
You see students spreading out all of their stuff or having group meetings up there. The round tables is probably my favorite part of the mezzanine because you can just really see them
working with it, yeah.
moving. Yes.
And the first year that I was here, there was hardly ever a student in there. I mean, we had
Hmm.
like card tables folded up or something. It just wasn't much. The bird's nest at the top of the rotunda is pretty cool. Frankly, I
Hmm.
kind of like the gazebo in the east lawn. See students laying out there reading in the sun, that kind of a thing. The kayak launch is a neat place, particularly because Tara, you and your people are so creative with it. But what goes on. I love the library too. I mean, that just feels like how a library really ought to look. And the Keenan family and the Lewis family, which were kind of the major families that inherited Henry Flagler's money, have really helped build that for us. And they wanted it to look like kind of a classical library. So there's a lot of nice spaces on the campus. Enjoy them
There
all.
are, yeah. I was gonna say, hearing you say that, and even mentioning the Lewis family, I know the gazebo has that Lewis Memorial that's in the center there. One of the things I loved about this past academic year is a student kept playing their guitar out there in the gazebo,
Yeah,
and it was
yeah.
so nice because it carried the sound across, the lawn area. It wasn't a nuisance to classes or anything. It was just, it was a Flagler vibe.
Yeah, he was there late in the day sometimes, and it really was kind of
Yes.
a peaceful way to end the day in late afternoon and early dusk.
Yeah.
It's fun to see the students crashing in the pool too. I think they were there this year in February. We had a few warm days, and they were taking
The
advantage of the
minute
pool
they
even
can
in
get
February.
out there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
you'll think, nah, they won't be ready for it yet, and they will prove us wrong for sure.
yeah. Yep.
So let's switch gears. You yourself have put four children through college, and so what do you recommend for families that are putting their first child, their only child, their fourth child through college?
Yeah, a friend of mine, when my first child we sent off to college or drove him and took him to the dorm and moved him in. um, I was describing to him how kind of emotional that was. And he was funny. He said, yes, he had kids that were a little older than mine. He said they should really warn you about what it's like dropping the kid off. And so many things have changed since I went to college. I'm a good bit older than you, Tara, but there was no cell phones. Couldn't FaceTime. You didn't have iPads and
Mhm.
laptops.
No, they
Long
weren't
distance
tracing
is a
you
matter
with
of
where you were going.
yeah, that's right. That's right. And long distance used to cost a fortune to call. You had to call like Sunday before 5 o'clock or after 9 o'clock to be able to get the cheap rates. Now it is a lot easier to be able, you can talk every day, you can FaceTime. I've got a daughter with a one of our grandsons out in Denver, and we get the video clips all the time. So it shrinks a lot. The worry when you drive away, you go, "Oh my God, it's changed. It's just changed." Well, it hasn't. They're still your kid. They're still going to be coming home,
Hmm.
and obviously, kind of being in communication is really sort of helpful. I joke, by my third kid, I wasn't as emotional. The first two were pretty rough. Then I kind of go, "Hey, this is going to turn out okay." The first two did too, and came back, and so it works out.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the best questions we had from last week's webinar was a student asking, "Will there be tissues for my mom on
Yeah,
move-in day?"
yeah,
And I was
yep,
like,
yeah. You had
"Oh,
them
we've..."
scattered all over the place on tables all across the student center.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, that's a pretty good
yeah.
idea. So, what are some things that maybe you worked out with your children beforehand that maybe our families could start taking advantage of these next few weeks before school begins?
Yeah, I wish I had good tips on that when I didn't. I think it just sort of evolves. And uh, again, the cell phone is such a great ally to be able to keep people close. It really shrinks the world to be able to talk, but the communication, the support, they are kind of on their own more. That's a hard thing for
Hmm.
parents too, where, when they're in high school or junior high and there's a problem, you can go and see the principal or the guidance counselor or the teacher, and that doesn't really work at college. They're adults when they're enrolled, although some are 17 years old, but most are 18 or so, and
Hmm.
sometimes they've got to work problems out. Often there's roommate issues. I went in with one of my best friends, and that's a lot of togetherness as a roommate, and you're going to have to, it's part of that is working that out, trying to figure out bills. It always costs a little more than you think, um, I was going to drop some activities that I'd done because I was worried about money, and I was calling home, talking to my mother, and she's, "Oh, honey, that's important. We think that's important. Stick with that. We'll make sure you get a little extra to get that done." And it was she doesn't even remember that conversation, but it turned out to be kind of a life-changing involvement with a fraternity, and which is not for everybody, but those kinds of things to bond with are important. And so we always
Absolutely.
told our kids, "You've got to join something. We need you to see involved in something because that helps you make a little circle of friends and kind of bond with it. Find there's a club or a sport or an activity for about anybody, and that's just kind of finding that base."
Absolutely. I mean, whether it's intramurals, I always say that the students that come out 4 nights a week for intramurals, you may not see them involved in anything else, but they are committed to getting together with their team multiple times
Yeah, that's
a
I
week.
did that too. The basketball and softball and those kinds of sports. We had flag football, and yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's getting activity is also good. It's good for your mind and good for your body. And sometimes it's hard to get
Absolutely.
out of bed and go do
Yeah.
it. But if you've got a team like you just described, then you've got a practice or a game or a match or
You
something
can't
or
let
other.
them
So
down.
those are
Yeah.
positive. Yeah, yeah.
So, do you think you could remember a time when you really wanted to step in for something that was going on with one of your kids in college and it was like, "Ugh, let me let them handle it."
Yeah, two of mine struggled a little bit on academics when they started, and they were very good in high school. And the adjustment for students, when you're in
Ugh.
high school, you're in class or at school 7 hours a day. Every hour you're in a
Mm-hmm.
certain
It's
setting,
structured. Yeah.
and then you've got some homework that you do that night that maybe due the next day, and it's structured. And your mom or dad's typically getting you breakfast and handling dinner, and every home and family is a little bit different, but often others are washing the clothes or doing those kinds of things, and all of a sudden you're on your own. You may only be in class 2 3 hours in a day, but you're expected to spend 2 3 4 5 6 studying, for those
Mm-hmm.
those
Mm-hmm.
classes. And so trying to get to that's the difficult one. But with one of the students, he was struggling, and my wife and I, cleared out a day. We were going to go over. We needed to sit with his counselor, his advisor, and try to go over things. And he said, "No," he said, "I got myself into this, and let me work it out on my own. I don't want you to come over." And we were
Love that he
got to
said
jump in the car, and he said, "No, no, no." It may have been that didn't want to know the extent of the academic situation he was in at
that.
that
Out of
point in
sight,
time,
out of
but
mind.
and on our another student that did that one, we did end up going down and met with the counselor and advisor, and there were some health problems that were getting in the way that later got rectified. But yeah, it's in parents, it's an increasing phenomenon, as you know, Tara, with your background in student affairs, where parents being more and more and more involved in trying to solve those student problems. And
Mhm.
part of the college is they need to do more of those on their own. It's kind
Mhm.
of better for them to try to work it out. Now, the catastrophic ones, that's a different story.
Oh, I
You
mean,
know,
like
parents will have an
mentioning your one
instinct on
kid that
that. Yeah,
had, yeah, that had the health stuff. It's
yeah,
finding that balance between like how do you teach them to advocate for themselves and how do you know when like, no, I'm gonna step in a little bit and help, but be
yeah,
that
yeah.
support system along the way, not necessarily the one driving or plowing.
Yeah, roommate issues, there's that's what RAs are for. That's what the housing director's
Mhm.
for, is okay, when is this a terminal thing and we need to move people one way or another? When is there really bad behavior and we maybe got to discipline a roommate? Extreme case, have to kick them out, but kind of let the students work through that process. We've, as I say often at the orientation, we've seen everything. I mean, no family is coming in with a problem that we haven't seen before. Saying that, I think there was one last year that I said, this is the first time I've seen this one, but by and large, we've seen it, and we've got people, places, institutions, programs, protocols to help people through it.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about Flagler more specifically. What do you think is special about our academic experience here? You already talked about, like the faculty and the people, but what else?
Well, and if you're not involved in higher ed, faculty, they teach, but they also research. Their job to be able to get a doctorate is they have to do a thesis. So research is an important part of what the faculty do. That can take away from teaching because it takes time to write the book and do the
Mm-hmm.
research.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what I found at faculty, and again, I've been in higher ed as a president for 20 years this year. I was chancellor of the state university system in Florida for a year. And I couldn't even count the number of campuses I've been on. And so you kind of become a student of what's going on. What knocked me out when I first started at Flagler is the faculty are committed to teaching and they're
Mm-hmm.
committed to one-on-ones with students. And our conclusion is small classes is the best way to learn, and face to face is the best way to learn. That doesn't mean that the occasional online class might be a decent vehicle, that occasionally a bigger survey class where you're sitting there with 100 students, but we just don't do that. Our focus is
Mm-hmm.
really on those small ones and the intimate kind of an experience. It's simply the best way to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And as a rule, there's some that can do it all online and end up picking up a degree, but there's a social aspect also of those classroom experience. And the faculty here are really committed to teaching. It takes a lot of time to teach and to prepare a class and to teach. I'm an attorney, and originally my first career, and I taught a business law class. And I've joked that between the preparation, the teaching, and
And the
the
grading.
grading of papers, I would have made more at McDonald's than I made teaching that class. That's the only one I did. I said, this isn't worth the time. And so faculty that have committed their lives to it, they obviously do it more efficiently than I did, kind of creating the class. But the faculty's terrific. And the staff support, the administrative people, they've got a passion for the institution as well. And I tell them too that they're the face of the college. They're the ones that often are being referred to maybe by faculty member or parents. Hey, can you help them on this?
Hmm.
And we've got a lot of resources to help academically. If there's a mental health situation, that's really a phenomenal shot. Maybe the best I've seen in all the colleges that I visited. Mary Tinlin and her people under you, so yeah, it knocks me out how committed faculty are to students teaching and to teach students and for students to learn. So it doesn't happen everywhere. I'll be really honest.
No, and I think they're really invested in the student themselves. Like they know stories about the students. They know what their career goals are. To hear the faculty keep talking about how they want to have more of these discussions with students on a one-on-one or a small group. They're invested in beyond just what they're supposed to teach with that syllabus.
That's exactly right. And Viv Hellwig is one of our board members and is an alum. And he owned and started up a company called Vested Metals. and he really attributes it to a faculty member. Actually, he'd actually graduated a few years, and the faculty member kind of steered him in a direction, and it's a very successful company. He just added another facility up in, I think, Illinois, I think, if I'm remembering right.
Oh.
But he's a graduate. But yeah, that's a special thing. You can go to a university and maybe never have a faculty member teach the
Mm-hmm.
class. It could be a
Mm-hmm.
graduate student or adjuncts, and adjuncts are people, but like me, that was not an academic, came up as an attorney, teaching a class on law or business law, and they're fun to have because they've got real world experience.
Mm-hmm.
But you really want the faculty to be able to advise you. They've got regular office hours. They can help you map out your schedule to graduate in whatever
Yeah,
time
the
frame you're
unofficial
shooting for. So
mentorship that
that
you
that's a
get
real
from
special
them.
component.
Yeah. Um, so let's kind of talk about some priorities for you as the president. And so when you came on shortly after, you implemented the five-star plan. And so can you talk a little bit about what that is? Because that's not a common term that you may hear at an institution, but I think it really works for Flagler specific.
Yeah, our marketing shop came up with that phrase. A five-star hotel is the top kind of a rated hotel, and since the Ponce, the main building there, was originally a hotel built by Henry Flagler, she came up with that idea. So it's got a couple moving pieces to it. Facilities was the first thing that kind of grabbed me. That we'd had some deferred maintenance. And then we ended up with a water leak. A fire sprinkler pipe went off, and the alarm went. Fire department came, but we looked. The last rooms we looked at were the rooms where the pipe had broken. The collapsed the ceiling, which broke the pipe below it, rather, on the floor below. So we concluded we needed to do a complete gut of the
Hmm.
inside because of the damage the water
And
had
this was in
done.
Ponce Hall, the
It was in
historic.
Ponce Hall,
Well,
correct, in the
hmm.
main building. But we've taken a look at all of them. Another dorm, Lewis Hall, was another
Hmm.
one that we did kind of a reboot on. Cedar, we took completely offline for a
Hmm.
year to get it fixed back up, and we're picking away at another one, Bear Hall. And so we the facilities improvement, facilities and grounds, and we've spent about 130 million on Ponce itself, and then millions on other facilities. In fact, I had a meeting today for about an hour with the chairman of our facilities committee to go over kind of the list of these things. And so we've got a
Hmm.
plan out over really the next 10 years of what we need to do. Technology, we decided we needed to do a major upgrade of technology. That first fall, um, the IT system crashed on move-in
Sure
day,
did.
and we couldn't do IDs and those kinds of things, and we
It
had
was
some key
memorable.
problems. So we got it back up, but we're modernizing our IT system. Those people that have worked in companies that have gone through that, that's a difficult transition, but that's a big deal. Is our board chair said, Wi-Fi is more important to students than food, and I
He's
think I
not
think there's some
lying
truth
because
to
he's
that.
gonna,
Yeah,
you
if they
need that
can't get
Wi-Fi to order that
Netflix,
food.
that's right. Yeah. Overall campus enhancements, the boat dock that we talked about. We added a fire pit. We kind of consulted with the students, you and your team did, on what they'd like to see. They'll give us feedback on food offerings, this sort of a thing. The main dining hall has a regular meeting, I think twice a month. Students come in, tell us what you like, what you don't like, what you'd like more of. And then student life, that was the other thing that
Hmm.
students love concerts. And so we've had some mini ones on the campus over in one of the dormitories, one of the halls,
Yep.
and then the amphitheater, which can
Hmm.
seat a lot more. And our vice president of academics, who's been at the campus 25, 27 years now, I think, he said that I think that's the largest gathering in one place of Flagler students in the history of the college. And so those have proven to be very, very popular too. And your team, Tara, has come up with some really creative functions. I know we had a movie night in the swimming pool and did Jaws one night,
We
and
did. I know
yeah,
that one was so fun for me.
yeah. Well,
I
there's
thought,
infinite number of ideas for it to go, but those are sort of fun. The Sing Out Loud concert, which is a little different
yes,
animal.
yes.
But yeah, that student life stuff we really have tried to pick up. and be responsive to students' interest in clubs and programs and that kind of a thing.
Well, and
That's
the
in
way
many
you have
ways, that's what people remember when they graduate.
exactly. I mean, like that, they're in, this is their home, is how I've said that multiple times for those that have, watched some of these sessions. And you're in class for 15 to 18 hours a week, maybe. And then, what's the rest of your home life like? Do you have places that you can study and commit to, your academics and your professional growth? But then do you also have places to hang out? Do you have places to have fun? I was talking to somebody yesterday. I love hanging out on my back porch, being outside, kind of still
Mhm.
inside a little bit. And we need those spaces for our students because they don't want to just be, in their rooms, that
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
their
that's
home.
right. I actually learned that a long time ago. But the little kind of nooks with a cushy couch or a bean bag, and the hammocks out on that lawn, and just stretched on a blanket on the lawn, sitting in the
Oh, yeah,
gazebo. Yeah, those it's those sense of places, those places that students bond with and remember. But those are important
absolutely.
for sure.
So you dropped a couple little nuggets there. What's maybe a unique Flagler tradition or experience you can think of?
Probably Harry Potter week. I don't know if anybody can do it as good as we do it, because that building looks like Harry Potter. And that actually, I think we kind of thought that may die down a little bit, and interest just keeps getting bigger and
Oh,
bigger and
I
bigger.
know. It is very unique. And I've always said, you may not know about Harry Potter. You may not even like Harry Potter, but for that one week in November, everybody's all on the Harry Potter train.
Yeah, yeah, you all have been very creative with it. Although I still, who's the character you wanted me to dress up as with the beard and
Yeah, Dumbledore.
Dumbledore? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been resisting that. I'm not a costume guy, but yeah.
But we'll keep asking every year and we'll
All
see what
righty.
happens. So one other thing we like to, well, I guess we don't really like to talk about it, but it's good for us to talk about is we are in hurricane season. We're in a hurricane area, and that is a point of, anxiety and nervousness for a lot of our families, whether you're local, whether you're, from out of town, out of state. So, what are some things that maybe you can share to alleviate some of these stressors for our students and families?
Yeah, at my previous institution, we were hiring a professor he actually was working in Utah at Utah State, I think. And his wife said she was petrified of alligators and hurricanes. And
Those are
you
pretty
know,
good things.
yeah, you can see an alligator if you want to look for it, and they're around, but they're really not a threat. The beauty on a hurricane is you get a lot of warning, and we've gone
Yes.
through them before. And evacuating to away from a flood zone if there's going to be, we're going to have the effects nearby, get into a building that's secure. So we've got the practice for that. And it's the people that decide to quote ride out a category 3, 4, or 5 that that's the mistake.
Hmm.
I've lived here, for 50 years at this point in time, and I live just off the ocean, actually, just a house or so off the ocean. But when they give you the warning to leave, then it's time to leave. And um, we had one a couple years ago, Tara, that it was going to be flooding and rainwater. It really wasn't the wind
Hmm.
threat.
Hmm.
And so actually students did stay in their dorm there, and
Hmm.
you all got pizza delivered, and the dining hall made, food boxes they could take back to the dorms and that kind of a thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I mean, we're really going to
um,
work with the county as, the number one. And so if we're under a mandated evacuation, we're going to evacuate. We may even decide that we want to evacuate before there's a mandated evacuation just to ease some of our students. But if we're not under a mandatory evacuation, but we can safely keep those students here, we're going to figure out, what's the best way to do that because we know that it includes traveling and getting in the cars or planes and we don't want to make it worse for anybody.
Right, and you could travel north, west, or south, kind of depending on where the storm is going or where
Mm-hmm.
it's coming
Mm-hmm.
from. And um, I lived in the Midwest, as I mentioned. Their tornadoes were the frightening thing because there was a
Mm-hmm.
randomness there. You'd get a couple-minute warning, and you just had no idea where those things are going. And earthquakes and mudslides and those kinds of things are are scarier to me than a hurricane simply because there's a lot of warning. And I've got a lot of kids, so you worry about all of them making sure they get to the right place. But
Where they're all at.
we look out for those. We give enough warning to say, hey, it's
Yeah.
time to go. Here's where you can
Yeah.
go. A lot of times kids go in with friends, families that happen to live in, a part of Florida that's going to be safe, and I would not over worry them. The beauty now too is that it's all on the internet. In the old
Hmm.
days, you kind of had to wait till the county manager or the mayor went on the news to give you a warning. And here, it's easy enough to see where the
Yeah.
track is
Yeah.
going, and the flooding has been the bigger impact.
Hmm.
But it always goes
Because of
down.
where
It
we're
always
at.
goes away. It's just a
Yeah. Yeah.
day or so to have to go away. But yeah.
Yeah, but I think, I've been here for 16 years, and just in my time, one thing I do like to emphasize to our families and students is the immense change that has occurred in like our emergency communication that's coming out of our marketing and communication department. And so it's on the web, it's through Omni Alert, it's through the family portal. If there's a storm lurking, maybe knocking on our door, like we're letting families know that we're watching it. And that's something that's at least important to me, even as a staff member, is that the
Hmm.
communication is pretty active,
Yeah.
to
Yeah. I
go
agree with
out
you.
there. Yeah. Well, any last little tidbits or pearls of wisdom you'd like to offer for our families tonight before we go over kind of like our important dates to remember?
No, I think for parents and students that have selected the college, you've made a great pick. And I originally was just going to stay here a year as an interim president, and was looking
We
towards,
hooked
frankly,
ya.
retirement, and fell in love with the place. And I got a daughter-in-law that went here, and before I met her, and it's a really wonderful, wonderful, loving, caring place. And there's just so many different things to do, and the college just keeps getting better and better. So I've described visiting with our alums, which we do very, very frequently. They have almost a cult-like attraction to the college. I
And
mean,
they're everywhere.
it's really a bonding. Yeah, they're all over, and we're going to Philadelphia and New York and Atlanta. We got groups there that we're putting on alumni events, and had a couple that tear up about their experience. Kind of how happy
Mhm.
they are. And what is fun too is when they've seen the changes and the improvements on the campus, they go, "Oh, that was
Why didn't
so
I
much worse
get
when I was
that?
there." Yeah, yeah. It's walking 2 miles through the snow each way uphill to kind of a thing. But yeah, I don't think anybody's going to regret it if they come to Flagler College.
I agree. I agree. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. A couple little closing points. It wasn't a part of our original schedule, but we are really excited that next week on the 14th at 6 p.m., we'll be offering another webinar, Saints in New Territory. And so this is a newer session that's been a part of our Roar Up orientation sessions, and it's just gotten some really great feedback. So those students that are coming from out of town, it'll be a great way to kind of get to know St. Augustine, what to expect, and kind of how to navigate through our city. August 22nd is our move-in day. That's our big move-in day. We do know that we've got athletes you would have been communicated with already. If you're a fall sport, they have an earlier move-in day. And so all that communication's been going out, but families should have received, excuse me, students, and hopefully the students are sharing with their families all that information about move-in day and when their specific time is. And then that first day of classes is August 27th. So again, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We'll try to get this recording up as soon as possible, as well as the look at what move-in day looks like. But any questions or anything, you can always send them along to studentaffairs@flagler.edu, and we'll try to find the answer or send it along to you. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see y'all later.
Thanks, Tara. Nice job.